See those pins on this map? Well, they show where gas bombs have fallen during an attack. They've been plotted throughout the night as reports have come through. And the decontamination squads have been given their orders to deal with them now that it's light enough to get on with the job. The warden on duty has already had a good look round the spot where the bomb fell. And since the attack, he's been busy evacuating people from their homes in the danger zone and seeing that all doors and windows of occupied houses are closed. Yes, I know he's not wearing his respirator, but he's keeping upwind of the site. This bomb is the first on the squad's list because it was dropped at a fairly important crossroad. The bomb dropped at night, and during the hours of darkness, a good deal of the liquid blister gas has soaked into the road, some of which is evaporated and being carried downwind as vapor. This evaporation or weathering is a slow business, so the street will have to be decontaminated to make it safe. Here's the squad leader coming to report to the warden, and the first thing he does is to check up on the direction of the wind, which may have changed since the attack. Well, that smoke shows that they're upwind of the gas all right. So the leader decides to work from this end of the street. He's going on ahead with the warden to figure out what his squad will have to do. But he's not going to do any heavy work himself, so he won't need to wear gloves. In case he touches contamination, he rubs anti-gas ointment into his hands. You'll see that he rubs it well in, especially between the fingers and around the wrists. But don't worry about the warden. He took care to do this the moment he arrived on the site. To have a proper look round, the leader will have to go downwind of the crater. So both he and the warden put on their respirators. Of course, the squad leader won't keep his on all the time because he can stay upwind and he won't bend over the contamination. He'll find it easier to give orders to the squad without it. When he goes downwind, of course, he'll put his mask on. It isn't likely that gas bomb craters will be large, and this one's quite small. Only a small quantity of stones and rubble has been thrown out. This rubble and the crater itself are grossly contaminated. You'll get heavy contamination within a few yards of the crater. This wall and pavement, for example. Curbstones and gutters are liable to be contaminated too. This lamp standard, the railings behind, all upright surfaces, in fact, will have to be dealt with. Don't worry about light contamination like this on the fringe of the area. It won't do anybody any harm. You don't need to destroy every trace of blister gas in the street to make it safe. Deal with the main zone of heavy contamination, and the light zone of contamination may safely be left to weather. The leader has given the okay for the lorry to come on. The leader and the warden don't walk through the heavy contamination more than they need to. They try to keep their boots as clean as possible. The squad are dressed in anti-gas suits, but these are not meant to give prolonged protection against blister gas vapor, which may be drawn in by movements of the body. They won't go downwind of the contamination, therefore, any more than necessary. By the way, every man's got a number, so that the leader can spot who's who when they're wearing their respirators. The first thing they have to do when they get close to the site is to put down a tray of bleach. See how the bleach is drifting in the wind? That's proof that they're in a good upwind position for working. Every man leaving the contaminated area for any purpose must now walk through the bleach tray so as to avoid carrying contamination outside the danger area on his boots. The first two to do this are the leader and the warden. The squad now put on their respirators and have their gloves fixed by the driver and the leader, who make sure they're securely fastened. Ointment alone won't do because these men will be handling heavy tools and it will get rubbed off. And that's why they wear gloves. Strong canvas mittens are pulled over the oilskin gloves to protect them against wear. The men aren't wearing their helmet curtains because in this case they're not in danger of being contaminated on the backs of their necks. When they're ready, the leader takes one man with him to mark out the area to be decontaminated. This is done by sprinkling a line of bleach round the outer limits of the heavily affected zone. Dry bleach will have to be spread over the whole area enclosed by this line. Now the squad, fully protected, move up to the site, carrying the bin containing their tools. They're rolling up another drum of bleach, which is placed close to the delimiting line. The squad take shovelfuls of the bleach from the dump and begin to spread it. They'll need about a pound of bleach for every square yard of ground, except for heavily contaminated patches, which will need more. For a rough working measure, a level shovelful should be just enough for 1 square yard. The bleach should be scattered from the shovel, holding it near the ground like this, just enough to give an even white surface so that no stains of blister gas show through. While this is going on, the driver is preparing to mix some bleach cream. That's bleach powder mixed with water, which will be wanted for places where dry bleach cannot be used. The squad have a tank of water with them in case the local mains have been put out of action in the raid. Bleach cream will be wanted on the wall, lamppost, railings and curbs, and the driver mixes just enough to do the job. Notice that he pours the water onto the bleach, not the bleach onto the water. The 2 bags in the background contain sand. You'll see the use of these later. Bleach cream, properly mixed, should be about the consistency of fairly thick distemper and should be applied with a whitewash brush. The squad has now reached the loose rubble and are shoveling this on ahead of them, bleaching the ground as it is cleared. Notice how they keep their feet on the bleached surface without treading in the blister gas any more than they can help. Here you can see very clearly how the bleach is applied to the road surface after it has been cleared of rubble. The leader now signals to the driver to bring up the bleach cream, and he puts number 5 onto the job of applying this to the contaminated wall. Accumulations of blister gas in the gutter often soak through the bleach. It is wasteful to put more bleach on this, and so the sand we saw just now is used to mop it up. Earth or ashes would do just as well. It's the driver's job to see that the squad is kept supplied with sand, bleach, and anything else they may require. Where contamination is gross, particularly near the crater, the application of bleach may cause a fire. This will help destroy the blister gas and the fire should be allowed to burn. When it has died down, more bleach should be scattered so as to leave a white surface. There's nothing extra deadly in these fumes and they won't go through a respirator, but the squad keep well out of the smoke just as they do if they're making an ordinary bonfire in the garden. If the fire looks like getting out of hand, it can be quickly scotched with sand, earth or ashes, and when it is out, this sand should be covered with more bleach. Now the gutters, which have been mopped up and re-bleached, are scraped clean, and the loose contaminated material from these is added to the rubble scraped up from around the crater. In the bleach creaming of walls and windows, special attention must be given to crevices. See that the bleach cream gets well into the crannies like this one beneath the windowsill. The pile of rubble must now be dumped out of the way clear of the road surface, and a piece of waste ground is just the thing for this purpose. contaminated lamppost has not been forgotten, but it isn't enough in this job to expect to do everything only once. You have to be prepared to redo any patches of your work, where, as at this spot on the road, the contamination has seeped through the bleach. Heavily contaminated curbs are treated with bleach cream. Here again, you might have to use several coats. The gutters are now given a final sprinkling of dry bleach. When the last shovelful of rubble has been dumped clear of the road, this heavily contaminated pile is covered with a coating of bleach in order to seal in the gas. It is then safe and less disturbed. So, to stop people messing about with it, they put up a warning notice. Now there's only the crater to be dealt with. This has already been decontaminated with bleach and is filled for the time being with clean rubble from outside the danger area. It should then be covered over with dry bleach like the rest of the road. Before leaving the site, the leader makes a careful inspection to assure himself that no patches of contamination are showing through the bleach. If any bushes had been contaminated, they would, of course, have been a danger, and the best thing with them would have been to cut them down. The squad has worked carefully, and there is no reason why they should have come into contact with liquid blister gas anywhere but on the soles of their boots. And this is very important. Avoidance of unnecessary contamination on clothing and equipment should be the constant aim of all members of civil defense services. Finding an unbroken white surface everywhere, he gives his squad the okay to relax. But first, they must treat their shovels with bleach before putting them back into the bin. Then the leader and the driver, the only two without gloves, take off the men's respirators for them. They do this because the squad's own gloves might be contaminated. The men have a final shuffle in the bleach to make sure their boots don't carry contamination onto the lorry. When they're all clear, the last man collects the empty bleach drums and the leader looks after the bleach tray. The driver and the leader open the men's jackets and trousers so as to let out any blister gas vapor that may have found its way inside. They also take off their gloves for them. As soon as his gloves are off, each man gets out a tube of anti-gas ointment and rubs it well into his hands. This is in case they touch any accidental contamination which may have got on their clothes. The leader of the squad signifies that the road is clear for traffic and pedestrians. So the squad can move on to its next job. And, as is only right and proper, their vehicle is the first to make use of the newly decontaminated thoroughfare.